morning, lovely viewers. We welcome you from Wide Awake with Alex and Stella Virungi. We appreciate you for always keeping it DreamTV and DreamTV. Today is a very beautiful day. We are lucky to be in a season that is preparing us for farming. We encourage the people up country to engage in that sector. I will keep calling on government and different stakeholders to handle the issue of Karamoja. It is still stinking as a nation to have a region that is suffering of drought and famine, and all other parts of this country have food. That is something that the State Minister for Karamoja should look at, the State Minister for Disaster Preparedness should look at, Cabinet itself, the Prime Minister. I am well informed that food was sent in Karamoja, but the handouts are not going to be enough. We need to do so much better when it comes to addressing the issues of Karamoja. DreamTV Impact Media Consortium is still mourning the death of a senior playwright, Alex Mukulu, and we grieve with the family and the leadership of DreamTV and Doxa TV and the Impact Media Consortium. We pray that the soul of the bereaved rests in eternal peace. Today I am going to have very interesting conversation. Last week was International Youth Day on the 12th of August, and there was a theme running. Prior to that, there was a National Youth Council sitting that happened on the 11th of August. I think it sat around in Zambia, and it had the Vice President, the Minister for Gender and Labor Development, retired Lieutenant General Henry Tumukunde. It had the State Minister for Youth, Dr. of course, Mercy, and the Chairperson National Youth Council and the Executive were there deliberating on a few issues. As we all know, whenever these councils sit, there is an issue of money and all that. But the theme for this year was supposed to be empowering, or is empowering young people for inclusive development and sustainable development. Now, we saw also on the 12th, the executive of National Youth Council and the youth leaders, they were with the Vice President, the Minister for State for Youth, the Minister for Gender, Labor Development, Minister of Finance. They had a scientific kind of celebration. As we all know, this financial year of 2026-2027, there will not be International Day celebrations or public celebrations because of cutting down of the finances as communicated by the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, that is Dr. Mathan Ngobi. So today I am with Albert Ainebiona. We are going to be discussing this theme and in line with the youth. You know, when we talk about empowering the young people for inclusive development and then also sustainable development, there is the issue of empowering, there is the issue of inclusivity, there is the issue of development and it being sustainable. Now, these are all three compact discussions that from a political perspective, they would be made colored. But from a technical perspective, we can be able to shed light. Now, Albert is a lawyer, is an advocate, and he has interacted with this discussion before. He has made write-ups on it, and we are going to have a very fruitful discussion. And we are going to dive in it. Albert, good morning.
Good morning.
We're happy to have you today.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yes, good morning, viewers. Albert Ainebiona here. Yeah, I'm a lawyer and a youth, very empowered.
Yes.
And still in the process of learning. So I'm happy to be part of this discussion, and it is always a pleasure to come and, you know, get a chance to talk to the countrymen and women, and especially the youth who form the biggest part of the country.
When we talk about youth leadership, we look at the 5 regional MPs we have as the youth. That is Central, Western, Eastern, then the National Female Youth MP. Then we decipher down to the National Youth Council that is elected by the delegates who form the youth councils at districts, sub-counties, parishes, to go down to the villages. Now, we have a formatted way of leadership for the youth. let's start with the National Youth Council. Do you feel it has actually been an avenue where the youth have sustainably aired out their issues concerning what they want in line with development?
That's a very brilliant question. I will start with the issue that for long I've known National Youth Council for around 10 years, and I have followed their events closely from secondary school to university. I will give a very open answer. I will say it has become a place of tokenism. What do I mean? It's a place where they call you to, let's say, give you transport allowance and have their issues passed through you, and they say, you know what? They used to are saying A, B, C, D, F, G. In real sense, they come with their own already made policies. And they're just telling you know what? This is what we are doing for you, and this is what we are doing. Sorry about that. This is what we are doing. So, to me, National Youth Council should be the right place and the right avenue for development. Why? In Uganda, over 75% of the youth, of the people in Uganda are actually youth. What does this mean? That we don't have to just be part of the process. We actually have to be part of the decision making. Because today and tomorrow, it is us, the youth, that would actually be in these offices. Meaning we shall drive policy, we shall drive development, and we need to look at sustainability as a very important aspect. And that starts with the National Youth Council. One is that you must empower these young men and women through National Council, because we see most of the leaders that we have had here in Uganda have been through National Youth Council. Look at most of the parliamentarians, ministers, they have been through it. And the best leaders in most of the developed countries have actually put a big stone into their country and their youthful ages. Let it be through employment, let it be through creating jobs. It is not something that we have to actually beg for. It is something that we have to be given, you get. And that is through policy and implementation, not just on paper and policy. Okay. Because paper and policy without implementation is basically saying that, you know what, we recognize you, but you're actually not part of us. For example, we have some ministers who they can use AI, but in this generation, if you don't use AI, where are you going? We are getting lost. We are getting left out in the era of robotics. But we have ministers who actually are supposed to bring it back to us. But are they actually doing through it? They are not. Again, back to National Youth Council. When you look at the structures of National Youth Council, I believe we have the best structures. I have been to Kenya, I've been to Tanzania. They are actually copying the model from Uganda, which in the early days was actually working very well. But where is it leading to? It is actually not helping us from my perspective. It is not. Because they call these young boys and men and they tell them this is ABC, they tell them this is ABCDFG. Indirectly, they are coming with their policies and they are not picking views of the youth. Meaning we are being cut out of the development for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Basically, we are being cut out of what is in Agenda 2040. And then where does that leave us? Okay. It leaves us out of the table, the high table, and then we are now beggars on things actually we're supposed to be part of.
When we are discussing avenues for having discussions in relation to the youth, we have the National Youth Council, then we have Parliament, where matters that are debated. The reason why I started with National Youth Council, there is always the belief that what is discussed in Council, the members of Parliament of the youth are present and they table it in Parliament. As we well know, some of these things have not actually been realized because the resolutions that are made in Council are normally not accumulated into resolutions that are adopted into Parliament. So that's the reason why I started with the National Youth Council, to give a basis to the person who is listening to us. Are our young people equipped enough to go to Council and deliberate on issues that are affecting 71% of the population of Uganda?
The answer is no. One is that the aspect of empowerment starts with education.
Yes.
back in the schools we're at or universities. Why am I saying so? I was following the recent council that sat in Zambia, and I realized that there is freedom of speech and debate, but is it being exercised? The answer is no. Because if we are having representatives from the sub-county level, are they actually being given a chance to actually debate and table their issues? They were not given a chance. That is why we had small fights in there and there and there, and I realized their biggest issue was actually transport refund.
Yes.
You get? And of course, I'm told there's always backdoor sharing. You know what? Get this and keep quiet. Sign for this. Sign for this. Sign for this. And when they realize it's out of hand, they tell the youth, you know what? It's first go for a lunch break. You get? It's very painful. It's very painful. I have a senior colleague of mine who I saw stand and try to exchange with the chairperson. And where was the issue? The issue was in regards to the interpretation and the procedure. The person chairing is an advocate like me.
Yes, yes.
You get? But he's really, he looks at the procedure and chooses to use actually the law to avoid the right procedure. But how many people in the house are actually lawyers to understand that there is an issue? So when a fellow colleague stands up and says, you know what, there is ABCDFG that is not right. And they look for a way of shutting him down.
Yes.
Of course, there are issues to do with corruption and bribery, you get. But again, as I also saw the Minister of Gender, Honorable Tumukunde, trying to say, you can come back, we can talk about ABCDFG. That shows you how some things are not being attended to. But what do I say? What do I propose as a person? I think before we come to the national, we need to have regional, where we first come with our own issues. That from the west, this is it. From the north, this is it. So we have every representative from every region get 10-15 minutes. And where the order paper is clear, you cannot smuggle this onto the order paper and remove this and add this and add this. So it's really so bad. It's really so bad. Having a good policy, but at the implementation level, it's extremely terrible.
Well, we have a streamlined parliament that has whips from different regions, that has, when you look at the issue of leadership. Now, the council sitting was supposed to be a parliament for the young people, and it was supposed to be an avenue where we go and deliberate. Sadly to note that the council sitting happens once a year. But this is an avenue where the young people are supposed to deliberate on policy, especially policy that is going to be implemented in the different regions they are in. And these resolutions they make are supposed to be tabled in Parliament, and they are supposed to form the youth agenda. Now, when we are discussing the issue of the benefits of having a youth council as a sitting which can be equated to Parliament, does the law provide for a streamlining of how council should be done, or we need to also have an amendment in the National Youth Council Act to see that we now have a streamlined platform that is equipped with leadership and knowledge to have a sustainable discussion on the development of the youth?
Thank you so much. Like you said, when you look at the National Youth Council Act, it's very clear, and it provides for those avenues.
Yes.
The issue is on empowerment and implementation. I might look at that act and understand what is in the act. You can also understand what is in the act. But what does this mean to a person who is in the Bueju district, who has come from Bueju district for the first time to come and attend this sitting? Do they actually know what is going to happen? Do they actually know what is done? Do they actually know how you can move a motion? Have they been trained and empowered? Of course, a few actually have access to those training through a few organizations that actually provide that training.
Yes.
But now the larger number does not have that empowerment. Yes, even the people who are actually chairing these sittings, if someone says point of information, do you think you're supposed to ignore the point of information? Point of order. Do you think you're supposed to ignore it? But again, how many people have access to actually TV to follow the national parliament on how things are done? Do they actually do that? We wait for TV to watch. You get. So the issue is not on the policies and the law. The law is there. The policies are there very well and very well simulated that even countries come to learn from us. But the issue is on empowerment and implementation. And people get to know, you know what, this is how I use it, this is how I avoid it.
Okay. When it comes to, because we are on the part of empowerment, where one of the embodiments of empowerment is supposed to be knowledge. And the dissemination of knowledge from the leadership to the ground level is also important. But let's talk about the issue of having knowledge of what you're supposed to do. We have seen symposiums where Parliament has been training its members of Parliament. We have not seen it for the National Youth Council. But coincidentally, these are the youth who want to occupy the spaces that are in Parliament. But there has not been ground training for the young people at the inception of the National Youth Council. So when we look at the issue of empowerment and knowledge, where are we lacking as a nation in issues of giving knowledge to the young people to prepare them for a better future?
Thank you so much. Having an office and actually knowing what happens in the office are two different things. You get? That is why even a simple a company will hire you and also train you.
Yes.
But where you hire me and you just give me key performance indicators,
Yes.
but you don't actually tell me that this is what you're supposed to do. Truth be said is I will continue doing what I was doing in my previous workplace. I will fail to know how I'm supposed to do something. I will fail to understand how the company works, how their policies work, and what I'm supposed to do. If it has a dress code, I'll just get the policy and keep it. Now, we get these youth, we vote for them and put them in different offices in different regions. But do they actually understand what they are going to do?
Yes.
Some of them are looking at these positions as offices instead of places of service. Do we actually orient them? Do we actually take an extra step to show them that, you know what, this is a policy, this is how it looks like? I have a colleague of mine who happens to come from a district, I will not mention here. He's a representative district youth councillor. And I asked him, what is a policy? And this gentleman told me, you know, a policy, these are things of ministers. So I asked him, so how are you able to represent people from your district? He said, but I don't represent them through a policy, or I don't need to know a policy to represent them. So I really got to know that, you know what, knowledge. But the man is very confident, he knows the problems, but how best do you put them in place so that they are implemented? Because talking and actually implementing are two different things. So I believe the same model that is applied in Parliament should now be pushed to National Youth Council, because it is a very important organ that should be empowered. They should take these youth through orientation. They can do it at the district level, they can do it at maybe a regional level, but there should be 2-3 days where they can empower them and tell them that this is how it's supposed to be done, this is how you debate, this is, apart from the debate of water versus fire, but this time it's a policy. We are dealing with issues that in fact affect the larger group of people. So you must first of all read, research, and know.
Okay. Now, we have talked about the empowering part, we have talked about knowledge, and we have talked about an avenue. So they have been empowered with an avenue where they can discuss the issues affecting the youth. That is the National Youth Council, and I think they have the National Youth Parliament, which I find inconsistent, but it is there. So they have the National Youth Council. Now, other than avenue, we have also discussed the issue of knowledge, where we find gaps in how they get to access the information and how they are able to use the information they've used. Now, let's talk about the issue of financial empowerment. The budget for the National Youth Council is almost 4 billion. And when you look back to Eyeru's time, the former chairperson, it was cut to 800 million. And now it has been increased back to around 4 billion. If I'm wrong, I'll be corrected. But now, the issue of let's start from the budget given to the youth. The budget given to the youth is not enough to push the agenda or to push the work they're supposed to do across the country. Is government failing, empowering them financially to do the work they're supposed to do? Yet they are financing a parliament which is also doing the same work vis-a-vis the National Youth Council.
That's a very, very good question. Yeah, and I'll start with a question also. Do you think the youth at National Youth Council have pushed or shown the government that there is a need to be funded?
I think some have.
Some have, but to a smaller extent.
To a smaller extent, they have not.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one thing I have learned for the years I've been a Ugandan is that for you to be funded, you must create need. Okay. And need will talk louder than you, the person. Now, it comes back or stems back to the actions and what we they used to do when we go to law council. They'll look at the quality of the papers. They'll look at the quality of debate. If we are there and they are funding us with, let's say, 4 billion, what are they getting back from the 4 billion? You get. That's why during a year's time they reduced it to 800
million.
Yes, but there are even queries of, there are queries from the auditors that you bought this Costa, you did this. Me, I will again say government will always be available to fund. Only if we actually get to understand what we are supposed to do as a youth. If we are talking about hunger, are we supposed to be actually talking about hunger and all those sorts in Karamoja right now? We as the youth, what have we done? We have a minister responsible for that area. What has the minister done? We as the youth, what have we done to push the minister to actually look at the problem? A sustainable solution. We want to actually buy food for them, but is that a solution? Have we looked at different schemes like irrigation? Have the people have been empowered to understand the problems? Because this is something that keeps coming. Meaning, we need to look out for a sustainable solution, not just these short-term solutions of, hey, we can correct this and correct this and correct this. It's very bad in this era.
Okay. When we have the discussion of funding, you bring out the issue of need. And the president has encouraged the young people to enter or to take part in the issue of the money economy, or getting part in the issue of development. Now, this discussion has three things: empowering, inclusivity, and then sustainable development. But we're all looking at development. If we jump a little bit to inclusion, on the part of empowerment, I wanted to ask the issue of investment. Has government invested enough, especially in the young people? We have a project of PDM that is going on, and we had the Youth Livelihood Fund, we had the Myoga, we have had these programs that have been going through all the way. Is the investment in the young generation enough to actually put them at a level where they can be included in the money economy?
I recently was invited for a talk at the US Embassy. And one of the things I talked about was the aspect of a woman giving birth. That when a woman gives birth, the last step is to cut the umbilical cord. But as long as the umbilical cord is still attached to the woman, the process of giving birth is still existent. You are giving us money, we are receiving the money. Yes, we have seen that you got pregnant, gave birth, we are seeing the child, but you have not cut that umbilical cord to create that independence. And cutting it has other aspects. It comes with an aspect of people learning how to use the money, showing them the reason as to why you're giving them the money, not just throwing them the money to them. When they gave people 1 million of PDM, what did they do the money with? I have a friend, a gentleman who helps us at the farm at home. When they gave him that money, he stopped working. And you know what he did? He started a bar. So after starting a bar with 1 million, he called me and told me, "Uncle, you know, I cannot start a bar and a person from outside gets drunk before me." so literally, he is the first customer. You cannot come to his bar. So yes, I will honestly say government has given us money, you get, to actually help ourselves. And there are people who have actually used that money to develop. You get. But the bigger number is they have gotten the money because they know it's just having a national ID, but they have actually not used the money because they don't even know how to use the money. So I believe that PDM should have said with actually teaching people how to use the money and then giving them the money. Not giving them the money and then you teach them after. Because the answer is that someone who has not been with the money will actually spend the money before starting. You get. And as the youth, at some point I will say yes, we have actually received the money, but we have not received the knowledge. We don't know how to invest money, you get, and they have created these regional hubs presidential regional hubs where you can go and train, but they were not tailored to actually the policy under PDM at the start. That is something I want to honestly tell you, because when you look at what happens in those industrial hubs, they were largely about skilling and using hands, but they were not about investment. teaching me how to invest, because there's giving me a skill and then how to use the skill and invest the money is a different aspect.
Now, you raise a very important question. And, you know, as you're speaking, a lot of things are running through my mind. The world is growing to an era where we are doing investment. And investment is either in innovation and invasion. And as a country, we have not invested so much in the issue of investment schemes, where you're having either you're investing in shares, companies, or you're investing in bonds, treasury bills. We have not mastered that issue of especially corporate financing as a model of investment and getting out money. I think it's either our physical policy and the financial policies we have as a country and the weakness of our economy and currency. But that should be, that being said, we need to look at it. The issue of training people how to invest and where to invest. Let's have the issue of clustering this PDM to challenges or to the strength of regions. If you understand that a region like Teso sub-region is productivity levels are more in growing Simsim, and if you are putting a PDM program, you encourage people to grow certain things. I've seen the Vice President encouraging people to diversify the crops they grow in the Teso sub-region. In Western region, you have seen growth, growing of bananas, growing farming as in itself. But the issue of tailoring PDM to what a region can offer or what a region is best known for, is this also a discussion we should have, especially when it comes to getting the value for money that we are given by government?
That's a very good question. You know, one of the best projects I always tell people about is the presidential hubs. These presidential hubs are in different regions. But I find a challenge, I find some challenge. Why is the challenge? They are not tailored, like you're saying.
Yes.
You get. Because a presidential hub in Soroti cannot operate the same way as that of let's say in Mbarara. Why? There are different democratic areas that run different things. For example, a hub in Mbarara should best talk about coffee, matoke, because the soils are giving us something different. The one in Soroti should also talk about other things like simsimo and very many things. So meaning, when you're actually looking at a policy that creates that presidential hub, it must also be tailored according to the cultures and the most popular agricultural product in that area. So the project is there, but it must now get down to the right person. And again, like they say, technology is now part of us. Let me tell you something I've learned from just moving around different parts of the country. You only create a business out of a need. If there is no need, you can never create a business, meaning you're solving a non-existent problem. If you know that in Western Uganda, people can easily grow matoke and coffee together, you get. Now, you as an entrepreneur, what solution are you bringing? You know what? Since they're planting coffee, then now I need to process for them, and you know what? And get a finished product, or maybe get a raw material and transport it here. You get. The problem we have now, us as a youth, is that for us, when I go to, let's say, Soroti, and I realize they are planting simsim, I'll now run to buy and be like, oh, they are making crazy money their side, now let me run and make it this side. But you're afraid to know the soils there, the weather, is extremely different. They're extremely different. We just do copy and paste. But now the government is supposed to help us understand what can we do. You go to a level of a community, we have someone they call a CDO, Community Development Officer. But does the community development officer actually know what development is? Or they get some random person who has studied agriculture and now they can be a community development officer? Does the person know that I can actually run a farm in Buhweju district when I'm in Kampala, and I can easily tell how my cow is feeling, the issues with it, I can easily see whether they have actually milked in the morning. They must know that this time it is agriculture and technology together.
Okay. My question now would be on productivity, value addition, and technology. We have issues of the presidential hubs. And I believe the presidential hubs are looking at skilling and productivity, where you can have let's say I've seen people being trained on bricklaying. I mean, I know people where I've grown up who didn't go to a presidential skilling hub to make a brick, and they're making bricks and they're selling them. So I find also that issue problematic, because you're teaching something that out there people don't need a skill to know. Now, when it comes to the issue of productivity, we have taught so much productivity, but value addition has not been one of the things we have been advising the young people to do. You tell them have a farm, but you're only telling them grow matoke. But the matoke can produce so much more other than just the food to eat. There are cakes that can be made, there are fertilizers that can be made, there are a lot of things that can be made from just having the matoke there. Now, the issue of value addition and government investment in not just productivity, but value addition. Has government invested in itself in understanding that the country has grown from just being a production hub to also having the capacity to add value to the products they are bringing in or the products they are producing?
I've seen the president talk about value addition on several occasions. But for lack of a better word, I need to say it the way it is. I don't think most people who are in government offices have actually understood what value addition is. Because if you tell me let's say to plant matoke, yes, I have planted it. What next? Do I actually understand that I can actually make cakes, make wine, you know, all those sorts of things without even moving my matoke from Barara? But what is at the back of the mind of a local farmer in Barara is that after cutting my matoke, the next thing is to load the matoke on the lorry and to Kampala to the market. Yet they could actually make other products without even stepping out of their yard. You get? So I believe value addition has largely been on paper than in reality. Because when you talk about value addition, honestly, in this era, I wouldn't expect someone to be exporting matoke. Would expect actually to be exporting products of matoke in this era. If we have had coffee for over 50 years, and then we are still dancing on the word value addition in coffee, we are still having people exporting coffee seeds, it's honestly embarrassing. When you visit our neighbors in Kenya, they are now past that discussion. Yes. They are now actually in extending their products to Europe, USA, opening the markets for their products. They are no longer into, you know what, if you have coffee, then do ABC, do ABC. I feel like Uganda is largely on paper and policy in regards to innovation and value addition. And even the few projects that we are having, there's a project in Tongamo to do with coffee. People are not fighting it because they don't want it. They are fighting it because they feel this is one person who is taking advantage of the other people. Because if you can get, let's say, 10 billion shillings, how about we divided the 10 billion shillings to different regions? You know, wouldn't it make sense to you? Yes, yes, not because the project is a good one. It's a good one. If you look at what it's doing, it's a good one. You get? But is there empowerment? Actually, other people getting benefits, or you only telling them, you know what? If you get coffee, you have to only sell to me. Meaning, I am the only person who is benefiting from government, who is benefiting from innovation, who is doing value addition. Instead of empowering 50 people, they choose to empower me as Albert.
Yes, which is a disadvantage to other people.
Yes. So because I would ask you the same thing. Yes, we have had projects in different regions. There is even a project, I think, to do with sugar. There is even the one to do with fruits. There's the one to do with fruits in Soroti. But you've seen discussions where there's a lot of money has been put in those projects, but they don't actually follow up.
The value for money is not there.
There is no value. I mean, I'm told that Yak Sugar has not produced any sugar.
It hasn't actually produced.
Yes,
profit. Let's keep it to profit. Because
but how much has been invested?
When we say sugar, it may be a different discussion. Let's say return on investment. The profit has not been.
Okay, return on investment. How much has been invested and for how long? So it is not that Ugandans don't want people to be actually supported. Yes. It's because they don't see their returns. Because if you bring their returns, then they will be able to support another person, then another person will be supported, another person will be supported. There, as Ugandans, we shall now support those projects and be like, you know what? At least we are getting A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Investment is not just a word; it's an action. Okay. You get. So if you come and appear on TV or bring the policies and tell us, you know what, I'm investing in ABCDFG. At the end of the year, we need to look at an investment giving us something that we again invest. For someone to earn more money, you must eat profits of an investment.
Okay.
You get, if I get 1 million, I invest 1 million. Then if I get 50,000 from the 1 million, you do not find me on Kampala Road saying, you know what, I made profits. I would have eaten my own child. In reality, you're supposed to eat a grandchild of your profit. That is where you reach a point and like, you know what? Yes, I have made money. But do we actually know what that is? We don't.
Let's dive into the discussion of inclusiveness, because there is also a discussion of sustainability. But let's talk about inclusion. You have given avenues, or you have painted a picture that the youth are ill prepared for platforms which they have been given so that they can have a say on policy and vote. Now, when we're talking about inclusion, inclusion needs you to be informed enough. Before we came on the show, we were discussing the issue of the old generation gagging the young generation and having a way of control over what they will be in the next 10 to 50 years. Now, let's talk about the issue of inclusion. The youth are fighting for inclusive spaces and they're fighting to sit at the table. But are they prepared enough to sit at the table, and what are they offering?
Yes and no. I would say yes, they are prepared, and no, they are not prepared. I'm going to be honest. Now, let me start with the side of they are prepared. In Uganda, you will relatively realize that people are educated. People are educated.
Yes.
Very educated from different regions in very many aspects. But how do they convert this education to actually help others? So you realize, much as we are empowered in form of education, we have not taken extra steps to use the education. Maybe it's not because we don't want. Maybe it's because the government has not assisted us to take the steps. And on the other hand, I would say the government has also failed us. Because if we are talking about, let's say, internal affairs as a country, I am sorry for this. How old is our Minister of Internal Affairs?
Professor Ephraim Kamuntu.
Yes.
He's a seasoned gentleman, a very old man.
Yes. So if the honorable professor has been, is leading a group that is largely full of youth, we're looking at 71%. Do you honestly think he would understand?
The State Minister for Internal Affairs, Haji Juma Witonzi Chiseka, he's a young man. He's not so old. Maybe
not. But do you think they would understand the way I understand? Do you think the problems I'm having right now are the same problems of someone who is 14?
No.
So you realize that there will be a representation gap in both policy and inclusivity.
Yes.
So for me to be part of what you're doing, you must understand what I'm doing, and I must understand what you're doing. So where we don't create a platform for all of us to actually sit and understand each other, then truth be said, there will not be sustainable development, and the point of inclusivity will just be talked about, but it will not be implemented. Yes, are the youth actually helping in this? At some point, yes, they are helping, because we are having representation, much as at some point we say, we are not actually being represented in every aspect. We don't have, if we are looking at the East African community, we don't have representation at East African community. We are having nine members. Out of the 9 members, I have come to make peace with the statement that it is a place of retirement of failed leaders here. That if you fail to win and you are a staunch person in this party, or you are associated with this person, then they will create an avenue for you to go to East African community. But don't you think we are supposed to be represented there as youth? We again go to parliament, same story, cabinet. I don't think we even have more than 3 members who are actually part of us. So meaning, if the highest organs are parliament and cabinet, honestly, we are having 1% in the parliament, 1% in cabinet. I don't think we as the youth, we have failed. I think the government has failed us.
But my question was, what do we have to offer? Because you have talked about knowledge, and you have said we are relatively educated. But the capitalization of the knowledge we have has also not been deemed fit enough to be provided avenues like cabinet. Now, yes, you have a minister of state who is for youth and is at cabinet, and I don't know how much she deliberates on issues of youth when she goes on those sittings. I think one day I'll get time and ask her. But let's talk about what we have to offer. Are the youth knowledgeable enough of what is going on, especially when it comes to the economics, the demographies of the nation, the region? Are they also having a discussion before they are even given those avenues? Are the youth prepared enough to have the hard questions and also provide solutions to the challenges that are affecting the young people and also affecting the population at large, not only the young?
Let me take you back to the days of colonialism. When the British wanted to colonize Uganda, they sent someone to Uganda. So this person came, understood the Uganda as a country, their cultures, and wrote back to the Queen of England and said, you know what, Uganda is a very good country. It's going to make one of the best colonies you get. So now they decide on the process of colonization. The same thing that the government should do. If they think we are the biggest number or we actually can do something, I think the government should have taken a step to now to come to us and understand our problems. Now, we cannot, as the colonies, we cannot carry ourselves to the colonizers and say, you know what, we are here. It is the colonizers to come and understand. However, as a country, we have that balance sheet where we can come to each other. And those avenues have been created, like National Youth Council, you get, and having a representation in Parliament. I think we both have to understand that, you know what, this is the time where we have to come together and we meet at a certain table and agree that, you know what, we have to be included in policy, we have to be included in implementation. But the most important thing is us knowing that we actually can be part.
Now, using your knowledge of your analogy of colonialism and what, if the person is supposed to send you someone, I want to use that example. Now, we have a senior presidential assistant on youth, you have a senior presidential advisor on youth, you have presidential assistants, you have senior presidential advisors, you have a minister, you have National Youth Council. All those people are representatives. You even have RDCs, assistant RDCs, deputy RDCs. All these people are in the youth, and they have always been sent. You even have a senior presidential advisor on special operations, the General Kahindo Tafire, General Mhozi Kainerugaba, who has always met the youth on platforms like Patriotic League of Uganda. Now, you have all these people who have been sent by the president to listen to the youth, understand the youth, and get to know what they have to offer. I'm going to still say I'm using your analogy. So these people are supposed to report back to the president and tell him, hey, there is a group of people who actually have something to offer. Don't you think the representatives found the youth lacking? That now the president actually thinks we don't have anything to offer?
Those are some of the topics I avoid about politics.
It's not a political question.
But let me give you a very straight answer. You see, I know most of those people. I am someone who is very active on social media. But at some point, I don't think they are pushing our agendas. Not all. I think most of them are pushing their own agendas. Why is, when I was at university, I was so much into politics. As one of those, I had very many positions at university. And I retired after university. Why is at some point I realized there was actually, there's something I failed on. And I resigned. My last position, I actually resigned as the Minister of Justice. Why? So why did I resign? I failed to deliver on an important aspect that I should have actually delivered on. So I feel our leaders don't see these as positions of service. They look at them as positions to enrich themselves and push their agendas. If I gave you an idea today, do you think it would be easy for me to meet any of those?
No.
Good. So if me as a lawyer, I cannot meet any of those. And mind you, there are some of the colleagues I have known from school. How about a person in Weshu district who is a youth at the sub-county level? Do you think he will have access?
No.
Now, a few of us would have a chance to actually have such a platform to actually talk to people. So you realize I don't think we have created a need. We have not made a very good case to be given a chance on the table. Even being given a chance on the table, I don't think we have really done a lot.
Okay.
Because if we are actually very serious and they know that, you know what, the youth are actually doing A, B, C, D, F, G, will have a say. In Kenya, when you talk about the youth, they know that they're the ones that are leading development.
Yes.
You get? They will tell you the Gen Zs are very serious. If they disagree with something, they will do it on paper and do it in other illegal ways that I don't support. But they will actually achieve what they want. But here in Uganda, we shall send 1 or 2 people. Maybe they are experts or maybe they are not. But we shall send them. I was in law school with Mercy, Honorable. I believe she's going to, you know, push A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But, you know, she cannot push alone. She needs me, you, and, you know, we all have to be part of the pushing. But through National Youth Council. But are we doing so?
No.
We are not.
Let's have the discussion on sustainable development. Now, the sustainability of the things we have put in place is also a discussion that we must be very prone to. We have the National Youth Council, we have the Youth Parliament, we have these avenues we have created as a nation. Financial avenues, political avenues, technical avenues. Now, the sustainability in making sure that this brings the youth to a place where they can develop themselves. In the next 10 to 15 years, if we remain with such a model we have now, will we see the youth get into the money economy?
Getting into the money economy right now is understanding the time we are in. You would say, I want to make money, but how are you making money? How are you making money? I told you it's because you have to know and identify a need and solve the need.
Yes.
That is the only way you're going to get into the economy. One, you would have to start with the education systems. I recently read an article in the newspapers where they were saying that they will implement a new curriculum in Senior 6 in 2028. And even the one that has been implemented at O level is failing. It's failing.
To your own assessment, because I've had people here who have talked about this curriculum, and they're actually thanking the president for thinking that we need to better our education system.
Now, you see, very many, I don't know where they have gone to school, but me, I'm from
I think
village.
they have been in Kampala. Yes.
They have been in Kampala.
Yes.
You see, in villages, there are schools where they still go home at 1.
1 p.m.
Yes.
Isn't that a good thing?
Very good thing. But are they going home because they want to go home, or they are going home because there's something lacking? You see, it is good because I'm also one person that doesn't subscribe to the whole thing of studying from 8 to 5.
Yes.
I believe someone is supposed to end class at, let's say, 2.
2, yes.
And then they now can, let's say in the afternoon you're going to go and attend presidential skilling, or you go and learn a skill. Let's say they tell you you're doing carpentry, class is up to 1, then in the afternoon you're doing carpentry. You get. That is one thing I believe in. But the education, the new curriculum is actually not helping in most rural schools. In most rural schools. I saw recently the minister who is responsible, I won't put in quotes, who is now responsible for corruption monitoring. He went to a school and he found kids studying from...
He's a minister of local government.
I said quotes.
Okay.
Yes. He found students studying from outside, and he was instructing that you now put iron sheets on top, you get, and do this. But do you think those people will actually have the money to implement the new curriculum?
No.
I talked to a friend of mine, some secondary school kid, who told me that we are always on turning point because, you know, they are facing each other. So the teacher is the other side. So they have to keep turning. So they... But the system...
Is the system we have built sustainable? Yes or no?
It is not sustainable in the current structure.
So there must be a change of structure.
There must be a change of structure and a change of implementation of these policies. Because you're going to bring something good into a rotted system, and truth be said, it will still die.
Okay.
With the high levels of corruption, I don't think we need to also talk about corruption and talk about Uganda. I think it's a new normal, especially in the local government. People are paid salaries, they're not in offices, they're actually not giving services. If you have gone to these local hospitals, if you have gone to even government, even to these services like agriculture, it's extremely bad.
Okay. I want to thank you for being with us and for keeping with us on Doxa TV and DreamTV. I want to remind you that Victory Church, we have a lunch hour from 1 p.m. to 2:15 with Pastor Teddy Nanziri. On Wednesday, we have an empowerment service from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. The ASAC mandate is still going on at Victory Church under the theme of Awakening the Nation to Serious Repentance. When we also have the Victory Special Service on Sunday, that will be at 3 p.m. Keep Doxa, keep Dream. Have a very beautiful